Welcome to Starbound. My name's Aram, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Sunspire Academy and Freyrin and Remike. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story. The first rule of deep space exploration, according to the Krenari Diplomatic Codex, Section 47, Subsection C, was to always announce your peaceful intentions before landing on an inhabited world. The second rule was to bring appropriate gift baskets. Nobody had written a rule for what to do when the planet screamed back.
"That's not supposed to happen,"
Commander Yurik said, her pale skin flickering with bioluminescent anxiety as veins beneath her flesh pulsed electric blue. She adjusted her neural port, a standard Krenari interface that looked disturbingly like a chrome flower blooming from her neck.
"Acoustic waves don't propagate through vacuum."
"Tell that to my bleeding audio receptors,"
growled Torvik, the Arvok mercenary captain. His slate-gray face, all sharp angles and old scars, twisted into what passed for concern among his people.
"Whatever's down there just punched sound through 300 kilometers of nothing."
The Coalition vessel, Harmonious Intent, hung in orbit around Charon 6, a moon that looked like someone had taken every nightmare in the galaxy and compressed it into a sphere. Even from space, you could see the crimson fungal blooms spreading like blood across continents, the writhing motion of megaforests that never stopped moving, the storm systems that glowed with bioluminescent lightning.
"Play it again,"
Lieutenant May Donovan requested. She was the only human on board, a contractor, not military, hired because someone in the Galactic Coalition thought having a Terran perspective might help with whatever this was. The sound filled the bridge again. It started low, a rumble that made your bones ache, then rose into something between a howl and a war cry. But there was structure to it, patterns that almost sounded like
communication.
Yurik's secondary eyes, the ones Krenari used for reading emotional spectra, dilated.
Could be a distress signal.
May felt something else, though, a resonance that bypassed her ears and went straight to her hindbrain. The ship's deck plates seemed to vibrate in harmony with the sound, as if the moon below was reaching up through vacuum to touch them.
"Distress signal, my armored ass,"
Torvik spat.
"That's a hunting call. Heard plenty like it on Gorvax Prime, right before the Swarm Mothers ate half my unit."
May played it again, slower this time, running it through every filter she had. There was something underneath the roar, something that made her coffee-deprived brain itch with recognition.
"We're going down,"
Yurik announced, her voice achieving that special tone of bureaucratic certainty that had led her species to accidentally colonize 3 systems through sheer paperwork.
"Protocol demands investigation of potential sapient signals."
Torvik's laugh sounded like gravel in a blender.
"Your funeral, but my boys get hazard pay. Triple rate."
May said nothing. She was still listening to that sound. That strange sound that had crossed the void like physics were just a suggestion. Buried in the lowest frequencies, hidden beneath the primal roar, she could have sworn she heard a word. Just one word. Reload. 20 years earlier.
"Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ass end of nowhere."
Captain Ryan Royce stood in the dropship's bay, addressing his team with the kind of grim cheer that only career soldiers could manage. 8 of Earth's finest Black Ops specialists, trained for missions that didn't exist, about to land on a moon that barely qualified as real estate.
"Charon 6,
he continued, gesturing at the view screen showing their descent. Oxygen levels that'll make you feel like you mainlined espresso, gravity that can't decide whether it wants to crush you or let you fly, and according to our science boys, approximately 17,000 species that view humans as crunchy and good with ketchup. Corporal Deke Mars checked his rifle for the 5th time, a nervous habit that had saved his life more than once.
Why are we here again, Gap? This place makes Detroit look like a resort.
Because, Ryan said, his smile sharp enough to cut glass. Command wants to know if this hellhole can be weaponized, and we're the lucky bastards who get to play lab rats. The dropship lurched. Emergency lights painted everything blood red. Oh, that's not supposed to, the pilot began. Then the world exploded. Present day. The Coalition landing party found the wreckage 3 clicks from their touchdown site. What was left of it, anyway.
Preliminary analysis indicates a vessel,
Urix reported, her scanner working overtime.
Age approximately 2 decades? The metallurgy is unusual.
Looks like something ate it, one of Torvik's mercs muttered, then spat it back out. May knelt beside a piece of twisted metal, her fingers tracing letters etched by hand into the hull. They were crude, desperate, carved with something sharp. War Howl lives.
Human script,
she said quietly. Too quietly. That's when they heard it. Not through the comms this time, but through the air itself, thick with hyper-oxygenated atmosphere that made every breath feel like drowning in reverse. The sound started as a whisper of movement in the crimson canopy above, grew into the crack of branches that shouldn't bend, became the thunder of something massive approaching at speed. May noticed something else. The fungal growths around them pulsed in rhythm with the approaching sounds, bioluminescent patterns rippling outward like the forest itself was announcing their arrivals. The ground beneath her boots thrummed with a subsonic hum that felt almost aware.
Defensive positions!
Torvik barked. Too late. They came from above like falling stars made of meat and rage. 5 figures that moved wrong, too fast for their size, too fluid for anything, wearing what looked like cobbled-together armor made from starship hull and local megafauna bones. The first one landed in the middle of the formation, and May's brain tried to process what she was seeing. It was huge. 7 feet of corded muscle wrapped in scars and tactical gear that had been repaired with tendons and teeth. Its face was hidden behind a mask that might have started life as a helmet, but was now a horror of welded metal and breathing tubes. It roared. The sound was physical force, a battering ram of noise that knocked 2 Chronari to their knees. Then it spoke.
Wrong neighborhood, tourists.
The voice was gravel and steel, smoke and thunder. Male, May realized. Human male. Torvik, to his credit, recovered first. He swung his pulse rifle up. The masked figure moved like physics were more guidelines than rules. One hand caught the rifle's barrel, crushing it like paper. The other drove an elbow into Torvik's chest plate hard enough to spiderweb the armor.
Ryan!
Another figure called out. This one male, leaner but no less terrifying. He was reloading what looked like a weapon made from salvaged ship cannons and the jawbone of something that had way too many teeth.
These ones got uniforms. Means they got friends.
The masked man, Ryan, cocked his head. The gesture was almost bird-like, predatory. Through the mask's visor, May caught a glimpse of eyes that should have been brown, but flickered with faint bioluminescent sparks, like fireflies trapped in amber.
We better make this quick, Deke.
What followed wasn't a fight. Fights implied both sides had a chance. By the time the dust settled, half the coalition force was down. Not dead, but thoroughly educated in the difference between theoretical combat training and whatever the hell they had just experienced.
Report,
Yurix gasped into her calm, her usual bureaucratic composure shattered like her left optical implant.
Multiple hostiles. Repeat. Multiple.
Hostiles.
The one called Ryan laughed, the sound distorted by his mask into something between amusement and threat.
Lady, we live here. You're the hostile.
May, who'd spent the fight pressed against a fungal tree that smelled like copper and bad decisions, finally found her voice.
You're human.
Every weapon swung toward her.
Am I?
Ryan stepped closer, and May could see his eyes through the mask's visor. They were brown, human brown, but with something else behind them. Something that had stared into the abyss and decided the abyss looked tasty.
Tell me, tourist, what makes someone human? The meat, the DNA? Or is it the name they put on your grave when they leave you to die?
I don't...
Save it,
Deke interrupted, chambering another round into his weapon.
Cap, ex-villain 30. Local packs moving in. Probably smelled the blood.
As if on cue, something howled in the distance. It was answered by another howl, then another, building into a symphony of hunger.
That's all right,
Ryan announced. He looked at the battered coalition forces, then specifically at May.
Here's how this works. You run fast, you run hard, and maybe you make it back to your ship. You don't run.
He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The war howl pack melted back into the jungle like smoke with teeth, leaving behind confused aliens, one thoughtful human, and a single dog tag that had fallen during the fight. May picked it up with shaking fingers. The metal was worn, scratched, but she could still read the name. Mars D. Corporal. Terran Combat Command. Project Warhowl.
Oh, fuck,
she whispered, the pieces clicking together like a gun being loaded.
Oh, fuck. What?
Yurix limped over, her skin flickering between fear blue and confusion purple.
What is it?
May looked at the diplomat, at Torvik nursing what were definitely broken ribs, at the nightmare jungle around them where human soldiers had survived for 20 years.
We need to run,
she said.
Now.
Because if Project Warhowl was real, and the tag in her hand said it was, then someone on Earth had questions to answer. And May had a feeling those someones were about to do anything to keep those questions from being asked. The emergency meeting aboard the Harmonious Intent had all the energy of a funeral where the corpse kept sitting up to argue.
They're savages,
Commander Yurix insisted, her neural port flickering with indignant data streams.
Whatever they once were, 20 years on that moon has stripped away their what?
May slammed the dog tag on the conference table.
Their humanity? Commander, I've seen the footage. They could have killed everyone. They didn't.
They broke 6 of my ribs,
Torvik growled.
You have 40 ribs. You'll live.
May pulled up her datapad.
I've been digging. Project Warhowl doesn't exist in any official database, but Ghost Data suggests a Black Ops program that went dark exactly 20 years ago. Deep space combat adaptation, extreme environmental survival, the works. So, Earth abandoned soldiers.
Yurix's secondary eyes narrowed.
That violates 17 treaties.
18, her aide corrected.
18 treaties. This is a diplomatic catastrophe waiting to...
The lights cut out. Emergency power kicked in a heartbeat later, bathing everything in that special shade of red that meant something had gone wonderfully wrong.
Report!
Yurix's voice hit frequencies only stressed Krainari could achieve.
Something's in the vents,
security reported.
Moving fast. We can't...
The comm went dead. May felt her blood turn to ice water.
They followed us up.
But how?
Torvik said.
The hull is sealed. The
The vent above him exploded outward. A figure dropped through, smaller than Ryan or Deke, wrapped in what looked like the hide of something that had way too many eyes. It landed on Torvik's shoulders, drove something sharp through his shoulder armor, and was back in the vents before anyone could react. Torvik looked at the quivering spine stuck in his shoulder. I appear to be lightly stabbed. More explosions, more vents. The war howl pack flowed through the ship like water finding cracks, striking and vanishing, herding the crew toward
The cargo bay.
May realized.
They're pushing us toward the cargo bay. So?
Urix was trying to coordinate security through her neural port, her skin strobing panic colors.
So that's where I was storing the recovered artifacts, including...
May's eyes went wide.
Oh no.
She ran. The others followed because when the only human on your ship starts running, you don't ask why. They burst into the cargo bay to find Deke crouched over an old military field recorder, his salvage armor glinting in the emergency lights. He looked up as they entered, and May could see his face clearly for the first time. Human features marked by scars that told stories nobody wanted to hear, eyes that belonged on something that hunted professionally. But there was more. Faint networks of bioluminescent veins pulsed beneath his skin, like Urix's, but organic, evolved, wrong in all the wrong ways.
Huh,
He said.
still works.
May found her voice.
How did you even get aboard? The hull is sealed.
Your hull's got maintenance ports.
Deke said casually.
Big enough for a motivated human who spent 20 years learning to fold themselves into uncomfortable places. We latched on during your atmospheric exit. Void swimmers can survive short vacuum hops, and so can we. Cut through your outer sensors like tissue paper. Your security team really needs to think three-dimensional.
He hit play on the recorder. Video log, 20 years earlier. The recording was grainy, damaged, but clear enough. A younger Ryan filled the frame, his face whole, his eyes still carrying that bright edge of military discipline. Day 15, he said to the camera. Dropship's fucked, comms are fucked. Harris died from the fungal infection. Turns out the local flora doesn't play nice with human lymph nodes. We've got maybe a week of rations left. He paused, looked off camera. Other voices, muffled but urgent. Deke thinks we can eat some of the local wildlife if we cook it right. Parker says the fungus might be processable if we... An explosion in the background. Screaming. The camera fell, showing sideways footage of something with too many legs tearing through their camp. When it stabilized, Ryan was covered in green blood, breathing hard. Day 15 addendum, he said. Scratch that, a week of rations. Also, Parker's gone. But hey, we learned the local wildlife bleeds. That's something. The feed crackled, jumped to another date. Day 90. A haggard Deke appeared on the screen, fungal spores visible in his hair like deadly snow. It's not just in our heads anymore. The storm seemed to react. I got pissed yesterday, really pissed, and lightning struck the exact tree a predator was using to stalk me. Ryan says I'm imagining things, but the forest, it feels like it's listening, like it's learning us as much as we're learning it. Present. Deke paused the playback.
Want to see day 50? That's when we figured out the howling. Day 100's good too. That's when Ryan decided eating raw megafauna hearts might boost our immune systems. He was right, by the way.
You monsters.
Urix whispered.
No.
Ryan dropped from the ceiling, landing with predator grace. His mask was off, revealing a face that was human in shape, but carved from harder stuff. Half his jaw was reinforced metal. Surgical scars telling the story of battlefield medicine with more enthusiasm than supplies.
Monsters are born. We were made.
He gestured to the screen.
Play day 200, Dick.
Video log, day 200. The Ryan on screen was different, leaner, harder. His armor was already showing signs of improvised repair. Personal log, Captain Ryan Royce, Terran Combat Command. If anyone finds this... He laughed, bitter as burnt coffee. Oh, who am I kidding? Nobody's looking. Project Command wrote us off the moment we went dark. Probably listed us as equipment loss in some budget report. He held up a piece of salvaged comm equipment. Got this working for about 30 seconds yesterday. Long enough to hear civilian channels. Earth's still there. Still spinning. Still not giving a shit about 8 soldiers who... The equipment sparked and died. 7 soldiers, he corrected quietly. Martinez didn't make it through the night. The howling got him. Not the predators. The planet itself. This place, it gets in your head. Makes you choose. Adapt or die. Evolve or become fertilizer. He looked directly at the camera. So we're choosing. Whatever it takes. However far we have to go. We're not dying here. And when we get off this rock, when, not if, someone's gonna answer for this. A pause. His voice went quiet. Dangerous. They threw us away like dogs they didn't want to feed anymore. Well, guess what? The dogs survived. And we remember who held the leash. Present.
But you didn't get off.
Yurik said, her diplomatic training finally reasserting itself.
You're still here.
Are we?
Ryan smiled, and it was all teeth.
Lady, we own this moon now. We rolled out the howling, tamed the megafauna, turned this whole death trap into our personal kingdom. Why would we leave?
Because you're human.
May said quietly.
And humans don't abandon their own.
The cargo bay went silent, except for the hum of emergency power.
Funny thing about that,
Deke said, checking his weapon.
Turns out we weren't the only thing your government abandoned out here. Found 3 more crash sites over the years. Colony ships, research stations, all written off, all left to die.
We saved who we could.
Ryan added.
Taught them to howl, taught them to hunt. Built ourselves a nice little civilization of the abandoned. So tell me, diplomat, who exactly are our own?
May's datapad chimed. New message. Priority 1. Encryption that screamed government black site. She read it again, felt her world tilt.
Oh, you bastards,
she breathed.
What?
Urix demanded. May showed them the screen. Official Terran Defense Command letterhead. Orders to quarantine Charon 6. Eliminate all witnesses. Project Warhowl never existed.
ETA on the sterilization fleet,
May said, her voice hollow.
48 hours.
Deke and Ryan exchanged looks.
Well,
Deke said.
That's new.
No.
Ryan corrected, something dark and eager creeping into his voice.
That's perfect.
You want to what?
Commander Urix's voice hit pitches that could shatter crystal.
You heard me.
Ryan spread a tactical map across the conference table. If you could call a megafauna hide marked with blood and battle plans a map.
You flinked them out to be here by Earth's finest cover-up squad. Our own bosses. The bastards who left us to die are coming to finish the job, and they'll burn your ship too, just to keep things tidy.
The Galactic Coalition does not engage in military action without proper authorization from...
Your coalition's about to be vapor.
Deke interrupted, field stripping his weapon without looking.
Earth's Black Fleet doesn't do witnesses. You're all loose ends now.
Torvik, shoulder wrapped and pride bruised, leaned forward.
Say we believe you. Say this fleet exists. What can 7 feral humans do against warships?
Ryan's grin was a thing of terrible beauty.
7? Oh, you poor dumb bastard. You think we're all that's left?
He howled. The sound shouldn't have carried through the ship's hull, shouldn't have reached across vacuum to the moon below, shouldn't have done a lot of things. But it did, and Charon 6 howled back. The view screen lit up with contacts, not ships, but biological signatures launching from the moon's surface. Dozens of them, riding things that looked like someone had crossbred a manta ray with a nightmare and taught it to fly in space.
Every human on that rock,
Deke explained conversationally,
learned the same lesson we did. Adapt or die. Turns out when you feed humans the processed organs of psychic megafauna for 2 decades, they develop some interesting party tricks.
Like punching sound through vacuum?
May asked.
Like bonding with void swimmers.
Ryan tapped the screen.
Beautiful creatures. They eat cosmic radiation and shape tactical advantages. Also, they think humans taste funny, so they adopted us instead.
This is insane.
Urix muttered.
This is Warhowl,
Ryan corrected.
Now, you can sit there and wait for Earth to vaporize you, or you can help us remind them why abandoning humans is a bad idea. Choice is yours.
Torvik stood, his warrior culture overriding his better judgment.
What do you need?
Guns.
Deke said immediately.
The kind that make big holes in bigger things.
Medical supplies.
Another Warhowl member added, dropping from a vent because apparently doors were for people who hadn't spent 20 years going feral.
Some of the pack's riding wounded.
And broadcast equipment.
Ryan finished.
The kind that can punch through military encryption.
Why?
May asked.
Because when we hit them,
Ryan's eyes went dark with promise.
I want Earth to hear every fucking second of it.
36 hours later. Space combat, as any military theorist would tell you, was a matter of calculations. Vectors and velocities, energy management and heat dispersion. Clean, clinical, predictable. Nobody told Warhowl.
Contact in T-10.
The sensor operator reported. The Earth fleet had arrived exactly on schedule. 6 stealth destroyers built for one thing: making problems disappear.
Warhowl pack is in position,
Torvik reported, still not quite believing he was coordinating with feral humans riding space monsters.
I still think this is suicide.
Everything's suicide if you do it wrong.
Ryan's voice crackled over comms. He was out there, in nothing but a modified EVA suit and 20 years of spite, riding a void swimmer the size of a shuttle.
Deke, you in position?
Roger that, Cap. Got a clean shot at the command ship. Just say when.
May watched the tactical display, her mouth dry.
How are you even breathing out there?
Fun fact about hyperoxygenated blood,
Ryan explained.
Holds its charge for about an hour in vacuum. Hurts like hell, but pain's just weakness leaving the body. Right, Parker?
Parker's dead.
Deke reminded him.
Right. Well, Payne's just Parker leaving the body then.
The Earth fleet dropped out of FTL in perfect formation. Textbook approach by the numbers.
Message incoming.
Urix reported.
They're ordering us to prepare for boarding and...
No!
Ryan said. Space went mad. The void swimmers moved, not through space, but around it, folding distance like origami made of physics violations. The Warhowl pack hit the Earth fleet from angles that shouldn't exist. Humans in improvised armor, mag-locking to hulls and going to work with fusion cutters and 20 years of grudges.
Impossible.
The Earth commander's voice cut through the static.
There's nothing out here but
Corporal Deke Mars, Terran Combat Command.
Deke announced, his voice carrying on every frequency.
Project Warhowl, day 7,000 and something. Still breathing, still fighting, and buddy, still really, really pissed.
His salvage cannon spoke. A destroyer's engine core answered by becoming a brief new sun. The battle, if you could call 20 minutes of physics-defying carnage a battle, ended with 3 destroyers in pieces, 2 more crippled, and the command ship frantically trying to jump away while something that looked like Ryan's pet nightmare chewed on their FTL drive.
surrender!
The Earth commander broadcasted.
We surrender! This is Admiral Haynes. Authorization code.
I know who you are.
Ryan's voice cut through. He was on their bridge now. The security footage showing him standing over cowering officers, green blood from the void swimmers feeding, dripping from his armor.
You signed our deployment orders. Minimal risk, you said. Standard recon, you said.
I was following orders.
So were we.
He grabbed him by the throat, lifted him one-handed. The hyperoxygenated atmosphere had done interesting things to human muscle density.
Difference is, we got better at it.
May's fingers flew over her console. Every bit of footage, every communication, every scrap of data was being packaged and broadcast on wideband. The galaxy was about to get one hell of a show.
Stop!
Admiral Haynes gasped.
You're still Terran citizens. We can negotiate.
Negotiate?
Deke appeared in frame, casual as Sunday morning despite the blood on his salvage armor.
Cap, he wants to negotiate.
Ryan dropped the Admiral, who hit the deck gasping.
Okay, let's negotiate. You want to know our terms?
He looked directly at the camera, knowing May was broadcasting this across the galaxy.
Every human you abandoned, every colony you wrote off, every acceptable loss in your black books, you're going to find them, you're going to extract them, and you're going to answer to them.
There are dozens of sites. The resources alone.
Not my problem.
Ryan turned to leave, then paused.
Oh, and Admiral, next time you want to abandon humans on a death world,
He grinned, all teeth and promise.
make sure they stay dead.
Lieutenant May Donovan stood in the cargo bay of the Harmonious Intent, watching the Warhowl pack prepare to depart. The void swimmers floated outside like patient nightmares, ready to carry their bonded humans back to Charon 6.
You could come with us.
Deke offered, checking his weapon one last time.
Always room in the pack for someone with a spine.
Tempting.
May admitted.
But someone needs to make sure Earth follows through. Besides,
She gestured at the data packet she'd prepared.
I've got about 1,000 lawyers to brief. Going to be a fun few years.
Ryan approached, helmet under one arm. Up close, May could see the full toll of 20 years on a death world. Scars that told stories, eyes that had seen too much, a smile that promised violence and meant it.
You did good, tourist,
Ryan said.
Maybe there's hope for Earth after all.
What about you?
May asked.
You could go home now. All of you could.
Ryan looked at his pack. 53 humans who'd survived hell by becoming something harder than hell. They were checking weapons, joking with each other, preparing to ride void swimmers back to a moon that had tried to kill them every day for 2 decades.
We are home,
He said simply.
Charon 6 is ours. We bled for it, died for it, became something new for it. Why would we leave?
He turned to go, then paused.
But if Earth wants to visit, they're welcome. Just tell them to announce themselves first.
Why?
Ryan's grin was sharp as stellar radiation.
Because now we've got anti-ship defenses. And Parker, our new Parker, found her in a crashed colony ship. She's been dying to test them.
The Warhowl pack departed the way they'd arrived, through holes in reality that shouldn't exist, riding creatures that violated several laws of physics, howling war cries that crossed vacuum like space was optional. May watched them go, then turned to Commander Yerix.
So, want to help me dismantle a corrupt government?
The Krenari's skin flickered through several shades of consideration.
Will there be paperwork?
Mountains of it.
Then yes.
Yerix straightened, neural ports glowing with purpose.
The Galactic Coalition loves paperwork.
In the distance, Charon 6 spun on, a death world that had made a mistake. It had tried to kill humans, and in doing so, it had taught them to be unkillable. Somewhere in the void, carried on frequencies that shouldn't exist, a howl echoed. And across the galaxy, on worlds where humans had been left to die, abandoned settlements stirred. The howl had been heard. The pack was calling. And Warhowl was just the beginning. 6 months. That's how long it took for the documentary to break the extranet. Abandoned, the Warhowl files started as May Donovan's evidence compilation and became the most watched piece of media in galactic history. 50 billion views in the first day. Comment sections that crashed server farms. Protest movements that made Earth's government wish they'd just let Warhowl eat them. And through it all, Charon 6 maintained radio silence. Until today.
Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command,
Yerix announced, her office aboard the Coalition monitoring station practically vibrating with nervous energy.
It's marked Final Solution.
May, who had been living on the station to coordinate rescue efforts for other abandoned human colonies, felt her blood freeze.
Show me.
The face that appeared on screen belonged to General Morrison, new head of Earth's restructured military. The kind of man who smiled while ordering orbital bombardments. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began, because apparently he'd learned nothing. "The terrorist cell known as Warhowl has rejected all attempts at peaceful resolution. They've corrupted the natural order, bonded with xeno-organisms, become something inhuman. For the safety of all civilized worlds, we have no choice but to implement a full planetary sterilization of Charon 6.
Bastards reframing the narrative,
May snarled. "The fleet will arrive in 72 hours, Morrison continued. "Any vessels in the system will be considered hostile. This is not a negotiation. This is pest control." The transmission ended. May stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then she opened a channel to Charon 6, using the frequency Deke had given her, the one that supposedly only worked during certain atmospheric conditions that involved screaming wind and electromagnetic hell.
Warhal, this is Donovan. You get all that?
Static, then clear as death.
Yeah, we got it.
Ryan's voice, calmer than it had any right to be.
80 ships,
May said.
dreadnoughts, planet crackers, the works. You need to evacuate.
No.
Ryan, be reasonable. You can't fight that kind of firepower with void swimmers and salvaged guns.
Who said anything about fighting?
There was something in Ryan's voice, a tone that May had learned to associate with plans that redefined the word inadvisable.
Deke, tell her.
Deke's voice crackled through.
Remember what I said about the fungus? How it gets in your head? Turns out it's not psychoactive, it's psychoconnective. 20 years of eating it, breathing it, bleeding on it. We're part of Charon 6 now. All of us.
So?
May's throat was dry.
So,
Ryan took over.
Morrison wants to crack our planet. He's welcome to try, but he might want to ask himself what happens when you piss off a sentient death world that's bonded with 53 humans who've spent 2 decades learning how to weaponize spite.
The connection cut. May stared at the dead comm unit.
They're going to fight. They're actually going to fight 80 warships with a planet. Is that possible?
Urix asked, her skin cycling through colors May had never seen before.
With normal humans? No.
May pulled up everything she had on Charon 6. Biosigns, atmospheric readings, the void swimmers.
With Warhal? I honestly don't know. But I know one thing.
She turned to the diplomat.
I'm not letting them do it alone.
T-minus 12 hours to fleet arrival. The emergency session of the Galactic Coalition had devolved into what historians would later call an absolute clusterfuck of biblical proportions.
Earth has no right.
The footage clearly shows biological weapons are banned under.
Enough!
The bellow came from Torvik, who'd apparently decided that proper protocol was for people who hadn't been stabbed by feral humans riding nightmare fuel. The Arvok mercenary stood, his rebuilt armor gleaming with fresh battle scars.
You want to sit here debating while warriors prepare to die? Fine. The Arvok Freehold will stand with Warhal. Anyone who wants to join us, speak now. Everyone else?
He spat on the council floor.
Enjoy your paperwork.
The Krenari Diplomatic Corps cannot officially...
Urix began.
Unofficially?
May interrupted. Urix's neural ports flickered.
Unofficially, I've already diverted 6 medical frigates to the system for humanitarian observation. If they happen to have military-grade shields and electronic warfare suites, well, that's just standard equipment these days.
One by one, representatives stood. Not all, not even most, but enough. Enough to matter. T-minus 6 hours. Charon 6 was singing. May watched from the observation deck of the Coalition fleet 37 ships that had answered the call, ranging from Torvik's battle-scarred mercenary vessels to a Yang collective science ship whose captain had declared intense academic interest in human-fungal symbiosis. The moon below pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. Weather systems swirled in formations that spelled out what looked suspiciously like tactical data, and the singing, a harmony of howls that made space itself shiver.
Warhal, this is Coalition Support Fleet,
May broadcast.
We're here. What do you need?
Witnesses.
Ryan's voice came back, distorted by whatever the hell was happening to Charon 6's atmosphere.
When this is over, we want the galaxy to remember. Also, stay back about, call it 50,000 kilometers.
Why 50,000?
Because Parker's not sure about the blast radius.
Blast radius of what?
The channel cut to static that sounded like laughter. T-0. Earth's fleet dropped from FTL in perfect formation. 80 ships arranged in a sphere, planet crackers already charging, fighters deploying in screens that blotted out stars. "Attention, terrorist cell war howl!" General Morrison's voice boomed across all frequencies. "You have been judged irredeemably corrupted. Surrender now, and your deaths will be—" He never finished. Charon 6 moved. Not rotated, not shifted orbit. The entire moon lurched sideways through space like gravity was a suggestion it had decided to ignore. The fleet's targeting solutions screamed and died. Ships collided as their formation dissolved. "What the hell?" The void swimmers came next. Not dozens this time, thousands. They rose from Charon 6's atmosphere in waves, each one carrying something. Spores the size of shuttles, biological pods that pulsed with stolen starlight, things that looked like fungal artillery, if fungus had opinions about orbital bombardment. And riding the lead swimmer, visible on every scope and screen, was Ryan. He stood on the creature's back, arms spread wide, no suit, no helmet, just human will refusing to acknowledge that vacuum should be fatal. The hyperoxygenization that let them survive short exposures had evolved, adapted, becoming something more. He breathed void and howled war. The planet howled with him. "Fire!" Morrison screamed. "Fire everything!" 80 ships opened up, energy beams that could split continents, missiles that could crack moons, enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. Charon 6 ate it. The fungal masses detonated in sequence, releasing spores that devoured energy like candy. The biological pods split open, revealing things that looked like Parker's dissertation on why physics can go fuck itself. Creatures that bent light, twisted space, turned incoming missiles into abstract art. And through it all, Warhowl rode. They hit the fleet like mythology given form and assault rifles. Deke's team punched through a dreadnought's shields using a void swimmer that had learned to scream holes in reality. Ryan boarded Morrison's flagship by having his mount literally bite through the hull and spit him onto the bridge. "What?" Morrison gasped, watching his fleet burn. "You're just human!"
Just human.
Ryan grabbed him by the throat, lifted him to meet his eyes. They burned with bioluminescent fire, human will married to alien evolution.
General, let me explain something about humans.
He dragged him to the view screen, showing his fleet being torn apart by the marriage of human ingenuity and alien biology.
We're the species that looked at fire and thought, I can work with this. We're the ones who saw wolves and thought, new friends. We took hostile worlds and made them gardens. Took predators and made them partners.
He smiled, and it was terrible and beautiful and utterly, perfectly human.
You abandoned us on a death world, and we didn't just survive it.
He leaned close, whispered in his ear.
We married it.
He hurled him aside, activated the ship's comm system.
This is Captain Ryan Royce, Terran Combat Command, Project Warhowl.
His voice carried across the battle, across the galaxy, across the void to every human who'd ever been abandoned.
Day 7342. Final report.
The flagship shuddered as something massive, one of Charon 6's continental fungal networks, wrapped around it.
Project status complete. We were sent to determine if Charon 6 could be weaponized.
He laughed, wild and free.
Mission fucking accomplished.
The fungus squeezed. The flagship cracked like an egg. Ryan rode the explosion out on his void swimmer, whooping like a kid on a roller coaster. 1 year later. The memorial on Earth was supposed to be solemn, dignified, a formal acknowledgement of the regrettable Warhowl incident and the tragic misunderstandings that led to it. Nobody told Deke.
Is that a void swimmer?
Someone screamed as the creature materialized above the ceremony, its strange biology making security's weapons utterly academic.
Relax.
Deke called down, dressed in what might charitably be called formal wear, if you squinted and had very low standards.
Just here for the party. Heard there'd be drinks.
He landed next to May, who was trying very hard not to laugh at the expression on the new Earth president's face.
You weren't invited.
Story of my life.
He produced a flask from somewhere, took a swig.
How's the rescue operations going?
17 colonies recovered so far. Another 32 identified.
May accepted the flask, found it carried something that tasted like battery acid and bad decisions.
The Coalition's established a whole department for it. Eurix is in heaven. She's generated enough paperwork to build a small moon.
Speaking of moons,
Deke nodded at the memorial statue, a sanitized version of Warhowl that bore no resemblance to reality.
Ryan sends his regards. Also, he says if they don't fix his jaw on that statue, he's coming to fix it personally.
Is that a threat?
More of a promise. You know how he is about accuracy.
They stood in comfortable silence, watching Earth's elite pretend they hadn't just tried to genocide their own species.
What's next for Warhowl?
May asked.
Same as always.
Deke's grin was sharp as vacuum.
Charon 6 is ours, and now we're thinking bigger. Turns out there's a lot of death worlds out there. Lots of places the galaxy wrote off as impossible.
And?
And impossible is just another word for challenge accepted. We're going exploring, finding new homes for the abandoned, teaching them to howl.
He paused.
Parker thinks we can establish a whole network, death world to death world, connected by void swimmers and human stubbornness.
His expression softened, just for a moment.
Earth kicked a lot of dogs over the years, left them to starve or go feral. Well, now we're building a new pack, a bigger one, and this time we choose who holds the leash.
The Coalition won't like that.
The Coalition can file a complaint.
He mounted his void swimmer, the creature's biology making several nearby physicists cry.
Besides, they need us now. Who else is going to explore the places too dangerous for sane people?
He started to leave, then turned back.
Oh, May. Next time you're in the neighborhood, stop by. Parker's been working on this new fungal brew that'll either give you psychic powers or kill you. Sometimes both.
That's not a selling point, Deke.
It is on Charon 6.
The void swimmer folded space and vanished, leaving behind only the smell of ozone and the sound of distant howling. May looked at the memorial statue one more time. They'd gotten everything wrong. The poses, the equipment, the expressions. made them look like heroes from a recruitment poster instead of humans who'd been pushed past breaking and decided to break back. But maybe that was fitting. Let Earth have its comfortable lie. Out there, in the black between the stars, the real Warhowl lived, on death worlds and moons, in the hearts of the abandoned who'd learned to bite back, in the howl that echoed across vacuum, because physics was just another rule to break. Somewhere in the void, a human was teaching a void swimmer to sing. Somewhere else, Parker was probably violating several laws of nature. And on Charon 6, in a base built from salvaged ships and alien bones, Captain Ryan Royce stood watch, scarred, unbroken, utterly, impossibly, perfectly human. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. You could abandon humans. You could maroon them. You could leave them for dead on worlds that ate light and shat nightmares. But you couldn't break them. Because humans didn't just adapt. They thrived. And somewhere, in the dark, carried on frequencies that shouldn't exist, the howl continued. A war cry, a promise, a countdown. The pack was growing. And Warhowl was forever.